McDonald for the Trevor McDonald Tonight programme because that's a proper programme. What we decided we'd do is give him half the show. He could have half of our show. He could talk about the best projects they do and the worst projects we would deal with. But he could have half the show to talk about how wonderful the ECGD was. And I wrote an article in a newspaper called the Labour Tribune, voice of the Labour left. And that voice is, help. Would you like to take half of the show for the ECGD? Boom, there's the article. And he basically said, no. No, because it's unfair of us to judge which are the worst and which are the best. It's unfair on the companies if we choose, isn't it? And you just thought, you sound like that bloke who judges school art competitions. Well, everyone's a winner, really.
I want to offer you half the show so you can put a really good example of ECGD onto the... Half the show is yours to show a really good example of ECGD. Half of it, you can have it. All you have to do is give us one bad example. Okay?
Can you get all my press releases here?
No, all you do is you give us one bad example and you can have the rest of the show, half the show, to provide a good example. We'll give it seriously.
Unfortunately, we're leaving at that point because we couldn't get on stage. Someone was gently sort of going, no, don't go on stage with him. Which would have been brilliant. And now the keynote speaker, Richard Cabourn. And we get up there going, no, another thing is, look, you see, you're fucking missing the point. I went along to a select committee here in the House of Commons about Export Credit Guarantee Department to sit in and listen because I am that dull. And I was sitting there and he walks in the room and he clocks me. And immediately he said, hello, Mark! And I hate that when politicians, it's Mr. Thomas. You know, don't pretend you're my mate. I hate that. Well, Minister, well, Jeremy, it's lovely to be here on Newsnight. You know, I hated that. So he just went, hello, Mark! And I thought, Richard Cabourn. So I just went, Dick! And afterwards, they finished the meeting, and I rushed up to try and speak to him, and I thought he's been friendly, he said hello. No hellos, no bon ami, no boom. Press officers dragging me off of him, rushing me in the car, whoom! He was off. He left quicker than a Northern Ireland secretary after being caught lying. He was back, boom! He was out. I love that man who said, put a spring in my step. It really fucking did, you know. I really hope he gets another job in the cabinet. I do, seriously, because if he resigns for a third time, he has to take the first job the DSS offer him. So anyway, well, I was a bit perplexed at why Cabourn had rushed off. Meanwhile, I had put in a data protection request for my personal data to the Export Credit Guarantee Department, and they sent me some emails back. One of them said, don't allow Thomas chatting time after meetings with the minister. You know what an inquisitor he is. It's important to remove the minister as soon as possible. In another one, they talk about trying to close Thomas down. In another one, they say he must be starved of information. In another one, they say the minister wants us to gather background/dirt on Thomas so he can rubbish him. And now listen, if you're in the business of annoying people, that is like a BA Honours certificate. The thing is, we were saying to the ECGD, you know, excuse me, how do you explain digging for dirt, taxpayers' money, breaches civil service guidelines? And he said that the ECGD said, no, that's just colourful language that civil servants use. I said, dig for dirt and rubbish is fairly unequivocal. No, it's just colourful language. All right, then you're a I don't mean it. Just colourful language. We were asking them about transparency and openness, and they said, to show you how open we are, just look at the example. We sent potentially embarrassing emails to you, and we disclosed them voluntarily. We didn't have to give them to you, but we did. That is how open we are. Curious, because something dropped through our letterbox the other day, marked restricted, and it's from the Permanent Secretary from the MOD. I really shouldn't have this. And in it, he describes going to a meeting of permanent secretaries from all these departments where they discuss my email requests. And in it, they actually say, Sir Michael Scholar explained that the DTI had tried to find ways to avoid having to make email data available. That doesn't sound like voluntarily disclosed to me. And so the great thing about this is, though, that all these different departments will have had to write reports about it with my name on it. So under the Data Protection Act, I can claim it all back. It's just the gift that keeps on giving. So, we wanted to talk to Caborn, we wanted to offer them half the show, we thought we'll help them. We found out that a minister and a civil servant were going down to open an office down in Cardiff. There's an office and there's a warehouse. We turned up with some extras and we'd had some music specially made, a sort of like ECGD musical, and it was all this kind of like, oh, there ain't nothing like a life in the ECGD, nothing gets me going like a credit guarantee. You know, it's all that kind of stuff. And we saw the car coming through the industrial estate with the minister on board, and it looked like the civil servant was ducked down in the back seat. And the car doesn't stop. Got to the warehouse and suddenly the shutters go down, the man's rushed out through a secret exit. The cameraman goes to me, which door do we cover? I go, don't bother with the doors, look out for the sliding roof and the jetpack. We thwart you again, Mr. Thomas. It's now our turn. We get our say for some of the bad projects of ECGD. I'm going to talk you through 5 projects. These have got nothing to do with arms and they've got nothing to do with the Ilisu Dam. We're putting them to one side. Item 1 for CAC projects using our money. The Ukraine. In the Ukraine, they are off cover. That means they get no loans, they get no financing, because the infrastructure, because the judiciary, because the courts, because the management is run by the mafia. You don't lend them money, but the ECGD has decided to advance credit to a country that's off cover. Now, it hasn't been approved yet, but they're sorting out the finances, getting ready for it. And I know what you're saying. Mark, what is this project they are doing in the Ukraine? Is it a school? Is it a hospital? It is the replacement for Chernobyl. It is the replacement for Chernobyl. If people in Scotland are watching this going, best get the lead sheets out for the sheep. Because Chernobyl went off and suddenly in Scotland a pint of milk was a lava lamp. How did that happen? The thing is here, the Export Credit Guarantee Department are supposed to work like this. A company says, we have this project. Can we have underwriting? Export Credit says yes or no. They do not tout for business, which is what they have done. There are no companies in the frame for this. They said, look, we've got the contract. Hooray! Come, who wants it? They are pimping for a nuclear power station, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Project number 2. In Kenya, there is a dam proposed to be built in a place called Turkwell, called the Turkwell Dam. European Commissioner delegate said Kenya is paying twice as much as they should be paying for the project because they haven't put it out to competitive tendering. That means one company was approached for the bid. No one else. They didn't get quotes. I mean, you have to get quotes if you have a bump on your car and you get it on the insurance. You have to get 2 quotes. A dam in Kenya? No. It's all right. My mate in the pub, right? And you think this is incredible. Are the Export Credit Guarantee Department involved in this project? Last year they said no. In Parliament, no, we have found no trace of an application for the Turkwell Dam. And we thought strange, because there's a company who in their accounts actually are in the frame for Turkwell Dam and cite the source of funding as ECGD. What can have happened here? Maybe they're covering something up, I thought. Or maybe they've lost the paperwork. They're a busy department, there's loads of files coming in, it's dress down Friday, you have a few drinks, a paper dart, that's that fucking hell. Then, a couple of days ago, in Parliament they say, yes, country project, hydroelectric dam, Turkwell Gorge, guarantee issued 86. We wrote to them and said, okay, what happened? Why did you say no? And they said, well, you see, we had a problem because we don't refer to the project as the Turkwell Dam in the department. So we couldn't find it. It's a dam, it's in Turkwell, go fucking figure! No, we didn't know, because we call it the hydroelectric project, you see, and after further research, they said, research, a bloke sitting there with a globe going, oh fuck. We just got confused, you know what it's like. That's why we got into trouble over the arms to Iraq, because we call it the Iraqi arms after this pub we go to, you see. All the projects we've questioned ECGD about, they've said the applications were dealt with according to the standard procedures available at the time. That's the standard response. So far, we've got ECGD are losing paperwork, getting confused, and they're building a nuclear power station possibly over in the Ukraine. Not going well for them so far. Number 3, also in Kenya, another dam called Ewaso Nero. The World Bank, in an internal memo, said that the contract was 5 times the amount it should have cost for the work done. And this raised huge questions on procurement procedures and on financial mismanagement. Think this through. When the World Bank says you're in trouble with financial mismanagement, that's off the scale. That's like Martine McCutcheon going, you're not very bright, are you? That's off. Project number 4. In Lesotho, the ECGD backed more dam projects, and as a consequence of that, 3 British companies are now in the dock as we speak, facing bribery and corruption charges, also including Balfour Beatty, the people's friend. Now, whether they're found guilty or whether they're found innocent is irrelevant, because there's huge questions on what the ECGD are doing to combat bribery, especially as the World Bank has got a list of companies they don't work with because those companies have broken the procedures to combat bribery and corruption. There are 54 companies on that list for the World Bank. 35 are British. Yes! Way to go! And of course, with proper preparation funding from the lottery, that could have been a lot higher. So he said to the Export Credit Guarantee, what are you doing to combat bribery and corruption? They said, we are new, we are diligent, we are reformed, we have new measures. What are these new measures to combat corruption? We ask companies to sign a form saying they won't be corrupt. Well, that'll sort it. That'll sort it, because corrupt people never lie. You know, they're just sitting there, millions of quid, will you sign this form? Oh, the one question I wish you hadn't asked. So I thought, let's have a look at the law here. What is the law in Britain about bribing foreign officials? It was written in 1906, and it just says, if ye shall be found guiltieth of bribing the king's agent, then you shall not be permitted to drive your sheep across Londonian Bridge. And the law is this: if you get caught bribing the king's agents, the maximum fine is 500 quid. 500 quid. These guys are going, 1 million to you, 2 million to you. Can I have 500 back, just in case? It's like the police are storming in there. We arrest you on bribery and corruption. Do you take switch? We now move on to project number 5, Ghana. There was a project that the ECGD backed, 42 million, for 2 hotels. And the company that got the contract was a company called International Generics. And I thought, no, not International Generics, the company who are incorporated in Britain, but are owned offshore in Netherlands Antilles via Panama. Surely we couldn't be using British taxpayers' money to actually help a company who pays little or no tax in Britain itself. Surely we would not be so foolish. And we said to the ECGD, surely you haven't done that? And they said, yes, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. They're incorporated in Britain. Don't have a problem with it. In fact, there are quite a few offshore companies that receive taxpayers' support. In fact, if you listen very closely on a windy night when it's blowing in the right direction, you can hear them in Jersey. We're in the money. We're in the money. A friend of ours went over to Ghana. We said, check out the 2 hotels. Found one hotel, not a problem. Second hotel, couldn't find. Not even a B&B. All they found was a complex of luxury houses being rented out to foreign diplomats and expats. And we thought, strange, you can't do that. You can't get money for a project and then change it. You can't do it. You can't go, we're going to build a school, give us the money. Oh, sorry, we had problems, so we did a howitzer. Is that all right? So we started talking to people, journalists in Ghana. We started talking to diplomats. We started talking to civil servants. We started talking to senior business people. They said there are serious problems with this project because The loan is about to be called in Britain. They've got a matter of months to complete it. Ghana still owes 15 million, which is going to be our money. 15 million. Add to that the fact that both of those projects have had to be refinanced using the Ghanaian taxpayers' money. Simple question. If the project is having to be refinanced, what happened to the original money? The 15 million. Where did it go? Who's got it? We asked the people in Ghana that we were talking to. They said, it's a very interesting question. Where did it go? Who owns the houses? We don't know. Michael Meacher could have one in there. We don't know. Who owns the houses? They said you should ask people. Maybe you should talk to the foreign diplomats. Maybe you should speak to the expats. Maybe you should speak to the ex-president of Ghana, Jerry Rawlings, and his wife. So we said to the ECGD, what's going on? And they said, well, we are aware of problems in Ghana. I should hope so. They also said, we've actually reported this case and given evidence to the Serious Fraud Office. And they say, at the moment, there is insufficient evidence to prosecute. We spoke to the ECGD and said to them, look, this is serious stuff. And they said, well, okay, we accept that. And if you have any evidence about Ghana, please give it to us. We really want to see the evidence you've got. Okay. So, we have a department that loses paperwork, confuses projects, that is backing nuclear reactors, that is backing projects that are 2 times, 5 times over the limit. There is no checks on competitive tendering. You're asking people to sign a little bit of paper saying, I promise not to be bad. And you've got this stuff going down when hotels aren't hotels and people don't know where the money is going and we're paying for it and you want me to help you? Well, maybe if you stopped digging for dirt on comics and started looking for shit in your own backyard, Sherlock, maybe you might get a clue. Now, I don't know if they dig for dirt on all comics, I should say that. Maybe they just do it as routine procedure in the Home Office. Someone's there with a little file, Tarbuck. Oh. Daughter, much funnier. A Labour MP is putting forward a private member bill on bribery and corruption. I hate myself for saying this, but write to your MP. Seriously, they've got no reason why they shouldn't back this. This is our money that they're spunking. Now, ever generous as we are, you know I said we were going to give ECGD half the programme. Well, we haven't done half the programme, right? But we have made a special little film for them, and we hope they like it. It's the ECGD promotional film.
Welcome to the world. Welcome to the world of the Export Credit Guarantee Department. Many poor countries can't afford to buy the things they need to develop and prosper, like buses, and hospitals, and buses. So that's where we come in.
Is that thing fucking on? Hello, I'm Richard Cable. Now, as a lad, when I was growing up in Yorkshire, I had this dream. And this dream, it wasn't the normal bad dream that I have where people chase me, but it was a vision. It was a vision of a government department that would support controversial projects, give money to help projects that were controversial in regimes that were unstable. Often undemocratic regimes, there'd be very little accountability, very little transparency. I might do it without competitive tendering. I might be lending money over here. I might be lending it offshore. And now, that dream has become a reality. This department, the Export Credit Guarantee Department, under the auspices of the DTI, under my ministership, me, I, Richard Cable and Dick, little Dick, that dream is now reality. It's not bad, eh?
And it's only thanks to you, the British taxpayer, that all this happens, because every project backed by the Export Credit Guarantee Department is underwritten with your money. That means hundreds of buses and hospitals and military schools around the world are down to you.
Tell Stringfellow I'm a fucking minister. Ready? Now that means that if a lender defaults on a payment, that means that we, the ECGD, stump up using your money, paying the banks, paying the lender, and then paying the company. And I know what you're going to say, whose interest is that working in? Everybody's, isn't it? Everybody's. I've only got to fucking follow through, haven't I?
So, hats off to the hard-working chaps at the ECGD as they bat for Britain, and let's salute the motto inscribed above their desks. If we didn't do it, someone else would. The Export Credit Guarantee Department. Good for Britain, good for business, good for nuclear power stations in buses.